Okay, let's talk about controlling chest to back, specifically the different configuration of your hands. Okay, as a general rule, what matters is to keep chest to back and to keep your partner's head underneath your belly. Okay, nonetheless, different hand positions, they get different names and they serve different purposes. Okay, I think the easiest way to conceptualize this is to think about when we are from the back with two hooks in, we often differentiate between over under, as in over under. The over under is referred to my partner's shoulder, so it's like over the shoulder, under the shoulder. Double under, double over, right? At some point we're going to come up with a back instruction. We're going to talk about this stuff more in detail, but from the chest to back in front of the elbow is exactly the same. I think that's the easiest way to think about this. So you have an over under, which is what is usually known as front headlock. You have a double under, which is either a chest lock or a double pit. And then we have a double over, which serves a very specific purpose, and we're going to talk about this in a second. Okay, so you have a front headlock, over under. Then you have a double under, either a chest lock where my hands are locked, or a double pit or double triceps. And then you have a double over. Okay, let's look at pros and cons. Okay, locked hands versus unlocked hands and all this sort of things. So as a general rule, the most versatile of these positions is definitely the over under. And the reason is very simple. Just like from the back, the over under is the one that grants you control and submission threat at the same time. From the chest to back, that's exactly the same. It grants you a certain degree of control because you're dominating one shoulder, but at the same time, it grants you the chance to go in with a strangle because you have a strangle hand underneath the chin. Okay, so that's why it's the position that you see people use it the most. As a general rule, the pros, that's the absolute most important pro of this position, that you have positional advance and submission threats available at all time at the same time. The cons is that, well, you don't have as much control as you have with different hand configuration. We're going to talk about this in a second. And you're exposed to peek outs, you're exposed to circling escapes, false drags, and all sorts of things. Okay. Let's talk about locked versus unlocked hands. And this is something that, especially among beginners, I have sometimes a hard time convincing them of what they should be doing. As a general rule, you should learn as a beginner to work with unlocked hands. Why? Because eventually, if you never unlock your hands, if you just work with locked hands, you might end up being as stuck as your partner. There are things that you can do just with locked hands, namely there are a certain degree of strangles, there are certain things that you can do. But as a general rule, if you never have the courage to unlock your hands and work with unlocked hands, you will never achieve your full potential as, a front headlock player, because you will be depriving yourself of all movement-based positions, namely go behinds, namely positions that require working with unlocked hands. Okay, so my recommendation is that you learn how to work with unlocked hands first. Then, when the rubber meets the road, when you're in sparring, there's a lot of sweat involved. You have to take your partner back down, mad return, whatever the case might be. Your partner is fighting your hands, maybe is grabbing your finger, whatever the case might be. Then, yes, sure, by all means, lock your hands. Okay? But I recommend that you learn how to work with unlocked hands first. Let's talk about double under. So a situation in which both of my hands are underneath my partner's shoulder. Now, the pros and cons of these are very, very simple. The pros is that, well, my degree of control is optimal because I'm controlling my partner's shoulders, okay? The cons is also very simple. I don't have any submission threat. At no point is my partner worried about getting submitted, which is the case from the front headlock, in which he makes a mistake, I shoot in, and the match is over. From a chest lock or a double pit, whatever the case might be, here, the only threat they can pose to my partner is positional advance. My partner knows that he can be very relaxed with his defensive hands, with his neck, because there's no submission threat. Okay, so that's the easy pros and cons. Now, locked hands versus unlocked hands. Also very, very simple. As a general rule, from a position in which your partner is on his knees, you want to be working with unlocked hands in what we call a double pit or double triceps here. This is a great control position. It's very, very, very hard for your partner to escape from this position if you don't move. You have a great degree of control. You can go behinds in both directions, misdirectional in both directions. There's all sorts of things that we can do, and we'll look at it later. But whenever your partner starts building height to a quad pod, this might not be enough, because if there is sweat involved, your partner is whatever, it's very slippery, he walks back and you just end up losing the position. So when he's turtling, you want to work with the double pit, unlocked hands. Whenever he quad pods up, you want to be locking your hands right underneath your partner's armpits. And now we're going to what we call a chest lock. And this gives me a greater degree of control and allows me to break my partner down back to turtle and preventing him from building height. Okay, so the game looks very simple. I'm playing here, my partner builds height, I lock, I break him down. We're going to look at these breakdowns later on more in detail. And now I open again. Now my partner starts driving into my legs because he wants exactly to maybe shoot a single leg. We still work with unlocked hands, but now we post on the knees and we start crawling, obviously. So he starts driving into us, and now this post on the knee prevents him from driving forward. At this point, my partner goes back to turtle, neutral. I lock again a double pit. My partner builds height. I lock a chest lock, and I matter returning. And that's how we play the chest lock in combination with locked and unlocked hands. You have to be very disciplined with these changes, okay? A small mistake could cost you a position. Now let's talk about double over. Obviously, again, the pros and cons are very, very simple. Just like from the back, as in two hooks in, double over barely grants you any control. If I don't have my partner's shoulder, it's very hard for me to actually control his movement. If I just have like a double chin strap or whatever, it's going to be fairly hard for me to keep my partner still were he to start building height, for example. Were he to start circling. I don't have anything to keep him in place. But what I do have is a great ability of a hit misdirectional guillotine. Because I have double over, I can start bowling my partner's head side to side. Now he circles a bit, and I can start hitting it on the other side. And now he circles again, and I can go into the other side until I can sit down, get a tap, or whatever the case might be. So as a general rule, against an athletic opponent that is building height, moving a lot, I would not recommend getting double over, because it's going to be very hard to control your partner. Against a still opponent that is just worried with, hand fighting and is just not worried about anything else, then yeah, by all means, go double over, and you start opening up the chin, shooting in, opening up the chin, shooting in again, and eventually get a tap. Just like you would from the back.